Welcome everyone to the second webinar. My name is Laura Thompson and I have found it useful and comforting and reassuring to look back at some of the tried and tested leadership and team development models that myself and my colleagues have used over the years to help bring some sense and reassurance to these transformational times. The title of this second webinar is practical tips for maintaining team morale in 2D. So how do we keep the energy, the passion, the spirit, the purpose? How do we keep that vibrant and sustain that even though we might not be physically in the same room anymore? And how do we ensure that all the best things that made our team successful, that we can take some of those bits and continue them and maybe start some new routines that are going to help us get through this and emerge in even better position than we first entered in. And there I was thinking the biggest disruptor of the 2020s was going to be the robots. In fact, technology is proving for all of us a fantastic way to be creative and remain connected and energizing each other, etc. So I've been finding it useful thinking about the lessons that we can take from nature. So it's been striking me in the conversations I've had with people that for me, actually, although I had lots of plans set aside for this year, I have the benefit of middle age to kind of know that this is all part of what will become my life's overall experience. I've been speaking with people for whom actually it probably feels a little bit less positive if this was the year you're going to be taking a certain exam, or start a certain new role, or something about this year that feels like it was time-based, that means as a result of that you're going to be held back. What I think might be a source of comfort is to think that just like the dating within a tree, we're able to look and see what the environmental conditions were like in that particular year for the tree, because it might be thinner or larger than other rings, and actually it all forms part of that tree. And I can see there being some scenarios in the future where a recruitment consultant, for example, rather than, well, what did you do during 2020, what did you achieve, maybe the question would be, what was 2020 like for you? How did you handle it? What did you learn about yourself? So whether we emerge from this year with a certain set of certificates that was part of the plan, maybe that's not the case anymore, but we can all emerge from this year certainly with some knowledge and some skills and some wisdom that is going to really set us up for this next decade. Because what I think this is showing to us is that actually the skills that we'll be acquiring now will be equally useful on that CV, whether they were planned or unplanned. So just like the rings of the tree, what we're going through now is part of our collective experience. And what's kept me grounded and confident is that everyone is in the same position. There is no one who is going to be able to do exactly what they were planning to this year. So while we've got all this going on and we need to make it work, what now? So the idea of the 30-minute webinars was creating a great space to learn. So none of this is telling people what to do. It's just creating an opportunity for you twice a week, half an hour, to think, right then, what might be some things that I can lift and apply to my own life? So I want to keep them friendly, light and positive, but rooted in commerciality. Each one will have 3 objectives, so designed to help you thrive no matter how makeshift your team working space is. And the objectives for this session is, how can I keep the team steady as we go through these transformational times? What might be some tips for having some great conversations that connect and energise, that might have to be a bit different from how we've done it before? And how am I going to support the different team characters so that we all emerge well? So, first objective, how to keep the team steady. So these are definitely times of transformation. So if we were to be foxy about this rather than pander, some of the ways in which we go about it might require us to think a bit differently, to acquire some new skills, to have the humility to get into learning mode, regardless of how long we've been working either independently or together as a team. So one of the first things I think to have a think about is, what is going to be needed to adapt so that we are able to thrive through this? And it's helped me to, I mean, I love a visual metaphor because it allows you to make sense of some new uncharted territory. And we are at the helm now, and the role is that a team needs someone at the helm, whether that is the same person throughout or maybe rotating around, so that we feel as though there are at least some hands on the helm. I remember being really inspired by a musician who said you can spot the difference between an amateur and a professional musician. An amateur musician will just turn up and make some noise because they want to look as if they're doing something. A professional musician will come in, they'll observe the rhythm and the pace and the character of the music that's been made, and they'll decide, what does this now need? So before we start rushing in and starting to do lots of stuff, could it be that to remain professional, we take stock, we review, and we think, well, what is it that the team needs in order to get us through this particular stretch of water? Hopefully today will give you some thoughts to think about what you think is going to work. If we were to go back to some classic bit of human motivation, some of you may have seen this before. If you haven't, it's a really good reminder of how we need the basic needs met. The foundation needs to be firmly in place in order to make the spire right at the top. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I mean, it must be 60 years old now. And what it looks at is the different levels, almost like rungs of a ladder. So my basic needs are, have my physiological needs been met? Can I survive? The next rung up, once I know I can survive, is do I feel safe? So can I predict that tomorrow I'm going to be able to survive as well? Do I feel safe? The third rung up is the love and belonging. So do I feel like I belong to something that is more than just me? The fourth rung up is the esteem. So am I valued? Am I adding value? And right at the very top, we have the self-actualization bit, which is, am I being the best me that I can be? Am I living my true purpose and potential? And I think what I'm holding on to right now is it's really tricky to think about your true purpose and your true potential when you're worrying about whether you've got enough toothpaste in, or whether you are worrying about whether there is enough food to last in your pantry for the week. So what all of us are experiencing is this upside downness of suddenly these core basic foundation needs. What is key right now is not only determining our own daily to-do lists, but how the country is organising how we all work and where we all sit. And where I've taken comfort from, because I'm not categorised as a key worker, is that what many of us do though is important. And once we've been able to get some of these basic foundations back in place, that's where we can then crack on with thinking about some of the higher level needs. So one of the things maybe just to think about is that the team right now may not be particularly inspired and motivated by the 10-year vision statement. Focusing too much, too high right now is likely to stress some people out rather than motivate. So at least for this week, let's ensure that the team are all feeling solid and supported at some of their lower level needs. So starting each team meeting with, where are you at? How are you? Rather than have you prepared for your annual appraisal right now, might not actually be the motivating aspect right now. So the second thing is to adapt to the appropriate motivator. If you haven't come across Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's a wonderful, wonderful bit of kit that when everything goes up in the air, we can then have a think about, well, what's important to enable the team to feel safe and secure right now. Hertzberg's two-factor theory, love a bit of kit that reminds us that just getting the basics in right. So just because my laptop is connected and I'm able to tap into the company server doesn't necessarily mean I'm motivated. So probably this first couple of weeks, we're all working out our hygiene factors. What is the environment in which I'm working in? How am I going to make sure that I'm able to actually log on and do some work? But getting those things right are going to lead to me being satisfied, but it's not necessarily going to give me the motivational uplift. So motivators are the bits that give me a sense of responsibility, achievement, recognition, advancement. Am I doing something that I've got some kind of responsibility over, however new that might be? Is there something that I can at the end of each day think, have I achieved something? For many of us, that's motivating. If I do something, is someone going to acknowledge that and recognise and thank me for that? And is there a sense that working on this now benefits me or us as the team tomorrow? And could it be that something to plan in immediately in terms of keeping the team upbeat is some daily rah-rah, as we call it? So reward, achievement, recognition, advancement, however new or however creative we need to be, is some kind of ability to be able to close the day off thinking, yes, I've actually achieved something. So what might work for your team in terms of the hours you're planning to work? Who's going to take that? Potentially that could be a rotating responsibility so that we all feel like we're then involved. Third thing maybe to have a think about then is the three things is the job is to be at the helm. So someone needs to be holding on to the ship as we go through these uncharted waters, adapting to the appropriate motivation. So aiming too high actually now might just stress people out. Let's just make people feel, enable people to feel safe and secure. And how might we plan in some daily rah-rah, some of that sizzle bit that keeps the spark going. Reward, achievement, recognition, advancement. However new or however creative we need to be with that, that might help steady the ship as we go through these transformational times. Second thing, well, we haven't got a shortage of communication, that's for sure. The challenge probably for this month is being able to work out what do we focus on and what do we discard in order for us to be able to actually connect and energize and focus on the stuff that's important to our team. So we're now in 2D. Your friendly little, can I just ask some advice? Might now be the hugely annoying disruption that you've just called through to someone that unbeknownst to you was quietly concentrating on something. I think it's going to be really interesting for teams to work out how we communicate with each other so that we support rather than interrupt as we're all going through these new time management patterns. Something just to have a think about then is how the meaning that we take from communication switches slightly when we have got less body language to go on. So on the left-hand side, we've got typically the impact that body language has in terms of the message we take when face-to-face. And as many of us will know, body language really goes a long way when you're there in the room with someone. On the phone though, so let's say a number of your team catch-ups are going to convert to a phone call, then actually a huge proportion of the character I display, the connection we feel will be via my tone of voice as opposed to my facial expression. So having a think about how we're going to communicate now that we're able to see each other less. And if we're using video, then how are we going to make sure that actually we're not just looking at our own picture on the phone, that we're actually being able to look around as well. The first 3 seconds of any team conversation is where you're setting the mood, because that's the first impact that we're giving with each other. The 30 seconds then setting the kind of the focus, and then within 3 minutes then that's typically the time for a conversation to start to settle into business. So if you are leading that team meeting, maybe planning out loud just beforehand how you're going to introduce and set up that meeting might be a good place to start, because the team will follow the emotion that you bring into the way in which you introduce that. The second thing maybe to have a think about is what might be our new regular pattern for communication. You might have seen this before. It's a huge topic in itself, so I'm sure we'll cover it on another webinar properly, but there are going to be some ups and downs as people go through the change curve. So there might be some initial jubilation of fantastic, the sun's shining outside, and then there's the reality of I've got 2 children who are trying to learn about maths when there's 10 minutes to go until I'm about to do something professional. So we're all going to have our ups and downs as we're working this through. What's going to be some routine so that as a team we're able to hold on to that routine in terms of how we communicate, how we're going to take advantage and play to the different time frames that we all have going on in terms of the different responsibilities. So the third thing is that when we're on call and we're with each other, let's make it count. I love the diamond structure. I think it's a fantastic little shape to have at the back of your mind. So each conversation we have has a clear point. It expands to give some content, it contracts on some kind of summary, and then we end that conversation, whether that is 3 minutes or 3 hours later, on some kind of point. The benefit of having the diamond at the back of your mind is we've got so much going on at the moment. What a team won't need is more clutter when we communicate. We need some clarity and some calm. And the diamond is a really handy way, especially in these new uncharted times, to just plan how we're going to start and end our team communication, and what does that then mean within the middle. So this is simple stuff, but this is new for us all, so it's applying some of those simple things that worked in our old world and applying this into our new world. So how do we have great conversations that connect and energize? Think about the new team language and pattern now we can't see each other. What might be the regular housekeeping that we bring, so we keep up those natural rhythms? And how are we going to ensure that when we do connect, that we are that there's clarity amongst all of the noise that's going on, and the diamond is a really handy way to structure a team meeting. Doesn't all have to be one person leading all the time. If we were to channel geese on this, they swap. So the goose at the front goes to the back for a bit of a rest, and then the geese at the back in that migration go to the front, because there's 40% less wind drag when you're in part of the group than when you're at the front. So rather than tire that one goose out, they swap and rotate. What a great opportunity on day one in this new world of working we find ourselves in to start to put a pattern in. It doesn't always have to be the same person leading that meeting. So how do we support different team characters so we all emerge well? What happens if you have someone on the team who needs a bit of energy to keep motivated? What happens if someone like my team member Peggy here quite likes some routine and order? What happens if you've got a few crazy characters that on Mondays like to come in and express themselves because it makes them laugh and it keeps them G'd up? And what happens if you've got some people that actually really like to just crack on and get stuff done and then have a chat after? So we all know that variety is the spice of life, and we all have slightly different likes and dislikes in terms of how we work. I love this phrase. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Yeah, but you can put salt in its oats. So how are we going to ensure that each one of our team feels motivated in a way that's tailored and personalised to us, so it doesn't feel like we're just going through the motions? If you've never seen this before, it's an awesome bit of kit developed from the work of Carl Jung, so it's way over 100 years old. And what it looks at is how there are typically 4 types of characters, of which we're all a bit of all. But this just might help having to think about the different people within your team, whether that is your domestic team at home, whether that is your professional team who are now at home, different styles that we might have. So someone who is quite people focused and extrovert, an outgoing character. This is someone who, a bit like a peacock, I guess, walks into an environment and they like to make a statement and they like to be acknowledged for making that statement. And you can see the information that's written there, but an outgoing character gets a sense of satisfaction from the day being an opportunity to make an impact. A direct character is someone who equally is comfortable expressing themselves out loud, but they're more task focused. So a direct character, if you were to apply a bird to this, would be like a hawk. They want to hunt down the result, get it done, and a day well spent at work is stuff got done. So a direct and an outgoing banter quite well because they're both energetic, but a direct wants to make sure we get stuff done. An outgoing wants to make sure that they've had influence over that. Then we have a precise character. So like the direct, they like to focus on what needs to be getting done, but the way they go about it is a bit more inside their head. So this person is quite a thinker. So a precise, if we were to apply a bird, the metaphor to this would be an owl. They like to understand why, they like the wisdom, and like the precises, they bond well over getting stuff done, but the precises need to know the plan, and they enjoy knowing that they're doing things right and they're following a process and that there's a clear plan. Then we have the steadies, and a bird type to describe this would be a dove. So steadies, like the precises, like to be thoughtful about things, but they're focused towards the people. So for them, it's really important that there is a feeling of togetherness on this, and that they're part of a group, and that we feel like we've got all of us are sort of in this together. So in a normal sort of world of work where we're all there together, we can sort of forgive each other for maybe unintentionally irritating each other because there's more natural communication that's existing. If though the only time as a team we're going to connect is once in the morning and once in the afternoon, let's say, then maybe we need to be a little bit more intentional about how we communicate so that we are getting the best out of each other and not only communicate in a way that works for our style. Just look at how there might be some conflict that could arise between an outgoing and a precise. So across the diagonals we have to watch, where unintentionally, potentially an outgoing could stress out a precise because it feels like it's unthought through ideas. And a precise might stress out an outgoing because there's too much focus on the detail when all the detail is evolving as we speak. We've got the steadies and the directs across the diagonal. So steadies can find directs a bit scary because directs want to focus on getting stuff done. And directs can find steadies a little bit too gooey because they focus a lot on the relationships. And of course, like anything in life, if we can take the best bits of each of the styles, then we're able to communicate in a way that means that we're able to be emotionally intelligent with each other. So what does this then mean? Could it mean that already just thinking about using these 4, if it works for you, the different types of characters in your team, and what do you think is going to be some of the things that are going to help keep them motivated over these next few weeks? And what are some of the things that you think, I need to be aware for that, I need to watch out for that? And here are some thoughts that might just help you have a think about getting the best out of each other, and of course yourself as well. So how might we adapt our styles, get the best out of each other? Well, when you're with steady people, so the doves, being involved motivates me. How can I reassure someone that of the team role in all of this? Just very simply, recalling past times of when the team has handled adversity could be of use for someone who's quite a steady character. If it's a new member that's joined the team, asking them to think about how they, what's worked for them before when working as part of a team. The dove likes the feeling of us all being calm and at peace with each other. So if there's any team conflict, don't leave a team meeting on that. Make sure everything is rounded off so then it doesn't sit and play around in that person's head. When you're communicating with precise people, so precise people, the owls, being knowledgeable motivates me. So how can we give access to the detail and the plan so at least they feel like when there is some detail on a plan that they're going to be the first to know? How could you ask them to identify existing knowledge and processes that can be built upon? Because for many precise people, that gives them the sense of certainty. It might not you, but for another type of character, that might be motivating for them. When you're with direct people, so the hawks, the feeling of success motivates a direct person. What might be some bullet points and actions that you can focus on, and asking them to focus on the outcomes to be worked towards might help create a sense of security and achievement for directs. And when dealing with the outgoings, so the outgoings will be the people who will let you know probably if they're feeling like things aren't going too well for them. Equally, if they go quiet on you, that might be the time you ask for a quick one-to-one conversation, because being influential motivates an outgoing person. Let them entertain and express themselves, so they've got somewhere for that energy to go, and maybe asking them to create some future ideas for new ways of working that will keep them interested and feeling like they're adding something to the to the mix. So the second thing is thinking about, well, where might some of my team members, what might be some of the characters within the team? How can I help them feel as good as possible as we're all working through this new world together? The Z tool is one of the most handiest bits of kit. People love it when they see it for the first time. And the reason why it's called the Z is it's almost like the 4 corners of any team communication you might want to put out, whether that's email, whether that's a video call, whether that's a telephone call you're all dialing in. And what it basically gives you is it gives you 4 corners of your conversation, or 4 sentences of a paragraph, or 4 slides within a slide briefing, where you start off by appealing to the steadies. So previously, how we would have handled this project would have been X, Y, Z. You then nip across to the outgoings. But what we'll do in these times that require innovation is we're going to try something brand new. So the outgoings are thinking, okay, cool, I can work with brand new. But then zigzagging immediately to the precises. So this is the plan. This is the logic we're going to follow. This is a process we're going to trial. So the precises are thinking, okay, cool. Yeah, I can see what it is that we need to follow. And then across to the directs to wrap up. So bish, bash, bosh. The goal of this project is now going to be 1, 2, 3. So the directs are left with some kind of tangible action that links to something that they can take a feeling of achievement from. The benefit of the Z is it means that as an outgoing, I'm just not only using my outgoing style to appeal to everyone. That might appeal to 25% of the team, but only if they are outgoing. What I don't want to do in these times where everyone's going to be listening to each other intently to hear about what's going to happen next, what I don't want to do is accidentally alienate people who prefer communication delivered in a slightly different way. So the fantastic thing about the Z is it helps you deliver a change message inclusively. And it also gives you, if you're the person putting together a briefing, some semblance of structure as we're all working out these new structured times. So the Z tool, just to give you an example, is where you talk about old and then across to new, then across to the plan, and then across to the output. So previously, when we've communicated as a team, we've done this each month. In these new ways of working, we're going to be trying it once a week. The reason why we're going to do that from once a week is to keep us all connected sooner. And how we're going to do this is we're going to do it at X time or next day. And the benefit of that is it's going to enable us to transfer knowledge to each other quickly, keep each other motivated. So the Z tool is a really simple way, as you're working out how we communicate with all different types of people in these new times, how to make sure that we keep everyone included. So how do I support different team characters to all emerge well? First off, consider the 4 communication styles that you might have within your team. Birds of a feather flock together. So how do we adapt our style to get the best out of others, so I don't accidentally alienate some of the members of the team that are maybe a bit less my style than someone else? And using the Z tool can really help connect when you have that half an hour with the team to make sure that everyone feels included. So we are all in this together. I started off life working in recruitment, and I keep thinking about that, about how at some point in the future, when you're there going for a promotion, when you are reviewing and reflecting on your lessons and teaching your children about this, when you are a young adult going for your first role, when you are someone who had a plan and the plan has completely changed now because all bets are off, this is one of the lines within the rings of your life. And for all of us, this ring in 2020 will be different from the original plan we might have set out. We are all in this together. No one is going to emerge ahead of anyone else because you were able to do something that other people weren't. This year will only set us back if we let it set us back. So be not afraid of growing slowly this year. Be afraid of standing still. What could you and the team emerge as new habits to keep you foxy, focused on the future, and emerging even stronger than you did before we went into all of this? So I wish you well. Keep foxy. I'll be sending out the list of tips, and on Thursday I'll be running again a half-hour lunch and learn webinar designed to give you just a couple of times a week some time for you to reflect and learn and think about how you can make the best of this situation. I wish you all well. Thank you.